Now that we have completed step 1 and step 2, we are relatively familiar with both the business question and also the data. So we can move on to step 3, data preparation. So in data preparation, we'll be doing a lot of data cleaning, including removing NAs, removing arrow data, creating new variables. You might have already found out that this is the same thing we are doing in lab 1, which is to pre-process your data so that they are ready for analytics. So in here, I'm not going to spend time to talk about data cleaning and preparing your data. The data I'm providing you is a clean data that is ready for analysis. If you want to do a recap, you can go back to lab 1 and look through what we did in order to pre-process our data for analysis. So we can directly jump to step 4, model building. The first thing we will be doing in model building is that we will identify the algorithm or the model that we are going to use for our analysis. And in here, we'll first be creating a histogram for our dependent variable, which is house price. So let's take a look at the house price distribution. So if you run this line, you will see that we just generated a histogram of our dependent variable, which is the house price. And this dependent variable follows a very nice normal distribution. So this means that if we want to run a linear regression model on it, we don't need to process this dependent variable. The next thing we'll be doing is that we'll be visualizing the histogram of the independent variables as well. So in here, we can of course create the histogram one by one, but if you want to compare all, if you want to see them all at once, we can actually change the structure of this plot in here. So we can create a 2 by 2 format for this plot settings in here. In this case, we can plot 4 different graphs in the same plot. So let's do that. The function to set up the creating for actually 4 graphs on a page is this par function, where we will be saying that we want a 2 by 2 plotting format set in here. So if we click run, and now if you create a histogram of all the dependent variable and independent variables, then you'll see that they're all listed in here. So if you look at the histogram of the size and histogram of the school rating, they are actually following a normal distribution as well. And then for this number of bedrooms, there are only 4 different numbers. So it might not show like a normal distribution, but we can still use it for our linear regression model. So based on these histograms, we can confirm that we can actually run a linear regression model for our analysis. So now we can set the graph format back to one plot so that later on, if you're trying to plot some other things, it will be back into one plot at once. So now we have decided our algorithm. We're going to use linear regression model. The next thing we can do is that we can try to identify the independent variables. So we can test the correlations by looking at how each of the potential independent variables correlates to our dependent variable. We are going to use the Pearson correlation test because this can provide us the p-value as well. I know there are some debates in statistics nowadays about whether p-value is really a good measure, but so far the majority of the analysis are still using p-value to indicate whether this correlation is significant or not. So let's follow that. Let's look at the p-value. So the p-value for the correlation between house price and also the size is less than 0.05. So there is a significant correlation between the house price and also the size. So we could include the size as a independent variable. So same thing. Let's look at the correlation between the house price and also the school rating. So it looks like the p-value is also less than 0.05. So there's still a significant correlation between the house price and the school rating. So now there's only one thing left, which is the house price and also the number of bedrooms. So now it's your turn to check the correlation between the house price and also the number of bedrooms. And I will post the solution in the next video.